So hi there, welcome to this video. I came out this afternoon with the intention of filming a video that I've had planned and started shooting many months ago around long exposures and the benefits of mirrorless cameras. However, when I got to where I was going, it was in between two other meetings. So I had a time window, slightly constrained. I thought I was going to be lucky, but when I've got here, it's actually 20 degrees and a totally cloudless sky. So not really the greatest situation for filming a long exposure video, because you really wouldn't see a great deal of movement in anything in the scene. So I thought, okay, well, let's try and do what we have to do as photographers quite often when we're dealing with the weather and things that aren't predictable, and I thought I'd just record a slightly different topic this afternoon. And it's one that I was kicking myself the other week. I've been on a couple of photo shoots and I had a memory card with quite a few what I thought were going to be quite good images on. And I got back home late on a Sunday evening and went to bed, got up next morning, and I had a number of business meetings all that week. And then the next weekend I went out with my camera, and of course I'd done the fatal error and the cardinal sin of not backing up the memory card. And worse than that, I forgot that I hadn't backed it up. I got carried away with what had gone on in the week and totally forgot that the card in the camera was the one that had the images on. So of course I went through the menu system. I was about to do some time lapse that day, and I went format card, and the minute I pressed yes, confirm, I realised what I'd done. But by then it was too late. The card had been formatted. So I switched cards. And when I got home, I remembered when I bought one of my XQD cards, it was either SanDisk or Lexar at the time, I'd got a little piece of paper which gave me a license to a data recovery piece of software. So I downloaded it. I managed to find the piece of paper that had come with the card, which was a pretty big miracle, and it had a serial number on it. I managed to get the license working on the piece of software, and I went in not really having great expectations of recovering the photos off of the card, but actually I was quite impressed. I managed to recover all of the photos, and I think that was largely down to the fact that I hadn't then taken photos over the top of them. I just formatted the card with an in-camera format and then taken the card out before and not overwritten any of the file segments. So let's take a look at that piece of software and just give you an insight as to how easy it is. And I'm sure it won't be the last time I do this. I'm normally quite methodical with backing up my images and getting them off of the card as soon as possible. But there are times when we're all human. We just make that little mistake. And let's take a look at that piece of software, because it may come in handy to you. You can buy a license if you haven't got one of the free licenses with one of your cards. So let's take a look at it. So when I was filming the previous piece to camera, I had a slight mind blank as to which piece of software I was using, and actually I've got two pieces of software. I've got Image Rescue 5, which came with my Lexar card, and I've got Rescue Pro Deluxe, which came with my SanDisk cards in the past. Both are very similar in terms of functionality, so I'll take you through both of them. But before that, let me take you through how I've set up this test. So what I've done is I've taken two 64GB XQD cards, one a Sony G series and one a Lexar card, and I have used my PC to totally format them back to exFAT. I've put each of them into my Z7 and formatted them, and then on each I've taken three still images in RAW and fine JPEG. So the RAW is at about 52 megabytes and the fine JPEG is around 18 to 20 megabytes. And I've also captured a 10-second MP4 4K video, which is obviously a bit bigger and will therefore take up more blocks on the memory card. I've done that on both memory cards. What I'm going to do now is take the cards out of the PC, put them back into my Z7 and format them. So there we go, they've both been formatted in my Z7, and as you can see, the folder is now empty on each of them. So we've in effect wiped those cards. Now interestingly, with Image Rescue 5, which is the simpler of the two packages I've got. You can see it's detected the Lexar XQD card and the Sony XQD card. Now, one of the things that's I've picked up, and other people have picked up as well, is that when you format the Lexar card, out of the 64 gigabytes on the card of available memory, 61 gigabytes is available to store images and videos on. Whereas with the Sony G-series card, out of the 64 gigabytes, you only get 56 gigabytes available memory for storage. That's quite a difference. And there must be something that Sony have done that reserves certain blocks for other uses on those cards. So let's start by looking at Image Rescue 5, which is the simpler of the two programs, the one that came with Lexar cards. What you've got here, very simple interface with the option to add the card, refresh the card list, the preferences, which only has generate thumbnail images in there, and then help. What you do is you select the card you want to recover, and you can see these options become available. You can either format the card, or you can do what they call secure format the card, which wipes any data irrevocably off of the card. What we're going to do is hit scan, and what you'll see is that the piece of software goes through every block on that memory card, all 32 million of them on this card, and it looks at what data is held there. I've timed this and it takes about 4 minutes on a 64 gigabyte card, so rather than sitting here waiting for 4 minutes, let's just cut to the end result. So the scanner's now finished. So what you'll see here is we've actually got 8 images. Now, when I formatted the cards in my PC, I did a quick format. And what you'll find is quick format doesn't totally erase all the data. You know, I was talking about the option to format or secure format. Well, I did the equivalent of format. Now, if you format a card, it's possible that when you take further photos, they don't totally overwrite the previous ones if they don't use the same blocks. And what you'll see here is I was playing around with this software and I took some photos of some candy here, and that is still there on the card. We've got 8 images here. I don't think there's a video one, so it hasn't picked up the video. That's probably at 19 megabytes is one of the JPEGs. We've got one there at 52 megs, so hopefully that's a RAW file. Another at 18, so probably a JPEG, a RAW, another RAW, and another RAW. So some of these RAWs, because they're RAW files, this software can't unencode them and create previews. So that implies these 3 are JPEGs. So it seems to have picked up some old RAW files, but it hasn't picked up all 6 still images and the video. So let's recover these and see what comes out. So if we select all down here at the bottom and then go recover, we get the option to recover the files to any folder we choose. So I'm going to just put these on the desktop, and you'll see it's fairly quick. And here are the files in the folder on the desktop. So what you'll see is it's recovered 3 old files, these 3 of the candy, and then 5 of the still images I took in the second batch. Now, to me, this one and this one look like a pair. This one and this one look like a pair, so probably the RAW and the JPEG equivalents, but it's only picked up one of this file and it hasn't picked up the video. So what you're seeing here is that this isn't a guaranteed get out of jail free card. There are some issues of recovering from the cards, so you'll recover some files in all likelihood, but the number you recover depends how many other files you've recorded over that card, how long it is since you formatted it, and an element of luck. So if we look at this file, we can see it's a JPEG at about 18 megabytes. This was the other one, so say a NEF file, so it's recovered the raw files. But as I say, it's recovered some files, but not all of them. So that was using the Sony XQD card. Let's quickly run the Image Rescue 5 using the Lexar card to see if there is any difference between the two types of cards. So this is the Lexar card recovered with the Image Rescue 5. So again, we've got 8 images. So let's go ahead, select all of those and recover them to the desktop. And here we have the 8 images. So we've got the 3 candy ones, a JPEG, a NEF and another NEF. And it looks like we've got a JPEG and a NEF over here of the same. And then we've got the JPEG and the NEF raw file here, and we've got one that seems to be an orphan, which is just the raw file. So again, very similar across 2 cards. These were independently taken, these pictures of the plants. I took 3 images on one card and a video, then I put the card in, the next card in, and took 3 images and a video. I didn't copy and paste them between the 2 cards, so they are different files. But it seems to have recovered a similar amount of images from the 2 different cards, and it took about the same time for each of them, not unsurprisingly. Okay, so that was the simpler of the 2 packages, the Image Rescue 5. Now let's look at Rescue Pro Deluxe. This is a package. I've got the Deluxe version that is non-commercial use. I think you can buy this, you can buy a license for this separately for around about, I think it was last time I looked, about 50 or 60 US dollars. And this one is slightly more complex. We have a number of options here. We can either recover photos, we can recover audio or video, or we can recover all files, or we can back up media off of a card and we can create an image file of the data on that card. Again, we can wipe the media and we got help. So what I'm going to do is I've got the Sony XQD card plugged in, and I'm going to, because we got a mixture of photos and video on the card, I'm going to try recover all files. So it scans for any removable media that is there. So it's found my Sony XQD card, and we got this little option here which is enable fragmented recovery. And as I understand it, some cameras, when they're recording videos, will fragment the video. If you select this, it will take longer to scan the drive. I've tried both the fragmented recovery and with it unchecked, and it takes about 4 minutes with it unchecked and about 5 minutes with it checked, so about a 25% increase in time. I didn't notice any particular difference in performance in recovering files with the Nikon Z series cameras with that check, so I'm going to leave it unchecked, and I'm going to hit, I've selected the Sony card, and I'm going to hit start. And again, we'll see it goes through scanning the card. It will take about 4 minutes. So let's jump through to the finished article. So here's the output from the scan using the Rescue Pro software. As you can see, it's picked up a lot more files, mixture of JPEGs and NEFs, and it's also picked up an MP4 file here. If we hit preview, you can see that, as with the other image rescue, you can see a preview of what the images are. Obviously raw files, it doesn't have the decoder built into it, but you can see the JPEGs. It's struggling with the MP4. You can also choose to look at the properties of each file where it's captured them. So this is a 4K video, 11 seconds long, which rings a bell of what I actually captured. And then if you hit output folder, it recovers them to a folder on your hard drive. So here we can see that it seems to have captured a whole bunch of about 10 images. I only took 9 images, so it's actually found an extra image here somewhere, or created an extra image, and we've got a mixture of NEFs, and that could be a thumbnail, you see. So some of these it's recovered the, let's look at the detailed view and the different styles. So it's recovered a couple of JPEGs and possibly a thumbnail JPEG or two, hence why we've got more images. And this is why these programs, you can't rely on what's going to come out of them. You may get lucky, you may not. The MP4 file, it's showing as 166 megabytes, so it may work. So let's open it and see. No, it's not working. Whilst it's recovered the file, there are obviously some corrupted blocks in there somewhere. And this is why, if you're going to get the best results, if you accidentally wipe over, you format a card, if you can recover that card before you then save more images on it, you've got a better chance of recovering the files because you won't have overwritten any of the blocks. In this case, for some reason, the MP4, it's not recovering all of the right blocks, whereas if I open up this JPEG file, it looks really good. So that was the Sony card. Let's just quickly check the Lexar card. So if we go back and we go recover all files, I've just put the Lexar card back in. There is the Lexar card. So let's start the scan. So this is the recovery from the Lexar card. 12 files showing 0 read errors. Let's just preview them again. This time it seems to have picked up 2 of these .anm files, whatever they are. Let's just look at that video file to see if this has recovered it any better from the other card. Nope, this time it's saying it's 10 seconds and it doesn't even move across. So again, it's struggling with the video file, and that may be one of the limitations of the package. Let's just open one of these JPEGs. And again, we can see it's opening fine as a JPEG. So again, it doesn't seem to be too much difference between Sony cards, Lexar cards. It works with both of them. But I guess what it shows is that this is a little bit hit and miss. So I wouldn't rely on the fact that you can recover some files from a memory card, irrespective whether it's immediately after you format it or whether you've overwritten some. There are limitations to what you can recover. However, if you do make the mistake, then there may be hope. It's not all lost. Just take the card out of the camera as soon as you realize what you've done, put it to one side until you can get to the recovery software and just see what you can recover. Hopefully it won't happen. I would always urge you to back up those files straight off your memory card, and maybe I'll do a video about my backup approach in a future video.
I hope you found this video useful. You never know when you might need these little tips and tricks, and it may just lodge in the back of your mind that if you format the card, it's not all over if you can catch it quick enough. Have you ever been caught in the way I was? Have you ever been human and just forgotten to back it up and then formatted the card? What happened in that situation? I hope you found this video useful. If you did, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell next to it, and you'll be notified of future videos, and I look forward to seeing you on a future video.